Good morning, everybody. Hope you had a good weekend, and if you're out east, I hope you got your electricity back. This is the time, if you have questions, concerns, things going well, things going poorly, now would be a great time to express those. If you've got those questions or concerns, or I'm sure other people would have them as well. If you've got good stories, which I've heard a lot last week of people having excellent success, and people would love to hear about that too, because that kind of pumps them up. So if you have any of those, please share them and on the chat room, or if you have a mic or are calling in, we can make you live so we can talk. But in the meantime, we'll go ahead and get started. So Missy, just let me know if we have some questions, concerns, or whatever come in.
Sure will.
Okay. The pointer this week is just simply acknowledging the fact that Social Security said they're going to be giving a 1.5 to 1.7 COLA raise, cost of living adjustment. So how can you use that, guys? How can you use the fact that Social Security is only giving a 1.5 to 1.7% cost of living adjustment? Any ideas? How many seniors believe that their cost of living only went up? Yeah, compared to inflation now, exactly. How many people really believe that their inflation has only gone up 1.5 to 1.7%? Is their health care only gone up 1.5 to 1.7%? Their health care costs, their prescription costs, their share of any health care bills that they have? Yeah. How about gas? Has gas only gone up 1.5 to 1.7? How about food? Has food only gone up 1.5 to 1.7? I don't know where they get their cost of living adjustments, but did the cost of living really only go up 1.5 to 1.7 the past year? So this is something that you can really let people know that they have to have the sale in place. They have to make sure they're getting as much Social Security as possible, because Social Security, they better start out with a high amount or a low amount of Social Security. I mean, that's one of the big things we make a point on the Social Security presentation. If you start out high, so if you start out with $10,000, how much is a 1.5 to 1.7% adjustment on $10,000 versus $15,000? Because whatever they qualify for Social Security, that's what their Social Security cost of living adjustment is going to be based on. So they darn well better make sure that what? They start out with the highest amount of Social Security. I mean, this is a great thing to make a point at your events, and when you're sitting down with them one-on-one. If they do not get the highest amount of Social Security to begin with, this cost of living adjustment, as meager as it is going to be even more meager if they start out with a smaller amount. Does that make sense? So, now we have a couple questions. How would you handle someone who wants to try to time the market before moving their money? Last week they dropped a few thousand, and then they want to get it back before they move. So essentially what you have to do is what? What's the first thing you do, guys, when somebody says that? They want to time the market. What's the first thing you do? Always, 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 always. Is that what you wanted to hear? Is that what you wanted to hear, guys? Get on their side, Pam. Good job. You get on their side. So you tell them, yeah, I mean, the last thing that I want to do is move the money and then have it come back up, and then I feel like a fool for having missed out on it. You get on their side for how long? This is one of those times you get on their side for how long? 1 or 2 phrases or 5 minutes? One or two phrases or 5 minutes? On this 5 minutes, Pam, exactly right. Because this was an objection. So now after you get on their side for 5 minutes, something magically happens during that 5 minutes. Why do we go for a full 5 minutes? Anybody? Why do we get on their side for a full 5 minutes? Something magically happens. Well, lots of things magically happen, but there's a very important thing that happens. Is after getting on their side for 5 minutes, do they even remember how or what they said or what brought that point of conversation around to be talking about it? They forget that they even made that objection. Then what you're going to do is what we talked about last week, which is what? Have them tell you the importance of what? What do you think you're going to have them tell you? Well, let's hear some reasons. I mean, why shouldn't they wait? I mean, it only makes sense, right? They should just go ahead and wait until the market comes back up. Why shouldn't they do that? Because it seems to me it makes sense. Why not just wait? So you tell me, guys, why? Why shouldn't they just wait? Steve, you asked the question, why shouldn't they just wait? I mean, it seems reasonable. Ah, could drop more. That's right, Steve. Could drop more. So, yeah, we got, okay, everybody's saying it could get worse. Exactly right. So, what we're going to have them tell us is what? They need to be prepared for the market going up. But they also have to be prepared for what? They have to be prepared for the market going up. Like they said, they have to be prepared for the market to go up, but they also have to be prepared for going down, right? Exactly, for drops. So they need to be prepared not for when the market goes up, not for when the market goes down, but for what? For everything. For everything. And isn't that what the sale is all about? Why does the sale prepare them for everything? Why does the sale prepare them for everything? Because isn't that what it's designed to do? It's specifically designed to do that, right? Because you have short-term money, inflation. Yeah, that's right, Al. So it's designed to keep you ahead of inflation with the long-term buckets. It's designed to give you a little bit more growth with the medium-term buckets, and it's designed that if the market goes to heck in a handbasket, you always have that money to draw out without getting it hurt. So essentially, anytime somebody says something you don't like, what do? You get on their side for 5 minutes. And then you have them tell you why what they just said makes sense in a very microscopic way, but in a big picture way doesn't make sense whatsoever. So you have to have them tell you that, yes, I need to be prepared for everything, not just for the market going up, because I don't have that crystal ball. Because if we knew the market was, guys, if you knew with 100% certainty that the market was going to go up, what should you do? I know what I'd do. If I knew with 100% certainty that the market was going to go up, what would I do? What would you guys do? If there was, without a doubt, 100% certainty, yeah, throw all my money into it. Yeah, buy. I would mortgage my house. I would sell my car for the next two weeks and put every single cent I could put in there. But why don't we do that? Because we don't know for sure the market's going to go up. So we have to do what? Prepare for the market going up, and prepare for the market going down, prepare for the market going sideways, prepare for everything. And that's what planning does. Hoping doesn't do that. Planning does that. Can I preach at them? Can I try to teach them that? Can I preach at them? Can I sell them on the fact? Can I tell that stuff to them, guys? If I preach and teach and tell and sell that point, what's going to happen? Nothing. What has to happen? You'll lose them, Al, exactly. You'll lose them. So what has to happen? We spent all last Monday talking about it. What has to happen? Yes, not only do they have to realize it themselves, because the only way I know they realize something, guys, is what? They have to tell us. Tell us. Exactly right, guys. Tell us. And when they tell you, then is it a problem anymore? Nope. Then the problem disappears. So does that make sense? And that's how we handle anything that they say that we don't like. Get on their side for 5 minutes, so then they forget why we were even talking about it, and then get them to tell us why that doesn't make sense. Because their objection does make sense in a very microscopic world, right? If they're looking through that microscope, it does make sense. But when we pull our head away from the microscope and look at the big world, because, see, they're looking, well, what are they seeing when they look through the microscope? And they say, I'm going to just hold on to the market back. What are they looking through? What are they seeing when they look through the microscope? They see the market always comes back. That's what they're seeing when they look at that microscope. But then we have to pull their head away from the microscope and have them realize that what? Yeah, the market always does come back. But sometimes it takes what? 15 years to come back. And do you really want to wait for 15 years for it to come back? So does that make sense, everybody? Any more questions on that before we move forward? Excellent. So good question. So what we're going to talk about today is the Yale close. So anytime you see this hat at the end of a presentation, you know it's a sign for you to go into the Yale close. And should you go back into the should you go into the Yale close with a lot of energy, or you're all tired out because it's the end of the event? Guys, the whole presentation comes down to one thing. Full blast, Jeff. Exactly right. Full blast. High energy. This is the place where you need to put all of your energy into it, because you can't, and this is the biggest mistake I see guys make at the end of workshops. Their energy drops off. It's like they're coming to the close, and then they say, "Oh, good, I'm at the close." It's like you see the finish line, and then instead of sprinting to the finish line, you stop running and you walk to the finish line. No, this is a time to sprint to the finish line. High energy. This is the most important part of the event because it's where you're going to close them. And we used the Yale close. Now it was not designed by Yale School of Medicine, but they used it and had a very, very convincing case study on why you want to use it and why it works. Because it was actually developed by the creators of motivational interviewing. You've heard me talk about this over and over and over again. Motivational interviewing was developed, it's a discipline of psychology developed in the 70s by a professor out in New Mexico, and it's used to help people with addictions to change their behaviors. And the thing about people with addictions, do they want to change their behaviors, guys? How many people with addictions want to change their behaviors? None. Zero, zippo, exactly. So, and the more you try to make somebody, the more you try to make a drunk try to get sober, the more you try to make an addict get sober, the more they what? The more they want to get sober? No. The more you tell them what they need to do, the more they what? The more you push, the more they dig in their heels. The more you tell that addict he needs to stop, the more they explain why they can't. The more you tell that drunk he should become sober, the more he tells you he can't. And it's the same thing with our clients. The more you try to tell them they need to do something, the more what they come up with. What do they come up with when you try to tell them why they need to do things? Excuses, exactly, Jeff. Excuse after excuse after excuse. So the motivational interviewing was actually designed to get people to do things themselves, not for us to tell them to do things. Because this is a great example where this delivery guy is dropping off a package, and the guy says, "Hey, thanks, have a good day." And the delivery guy turns to him and says, "Don't tell me what to do." See, that's basically what happens with these clients. Do our clients want to, and that's the mistake a lot of advisors make. They come in convinced, well, they wouldn't have come to this workshop unless they wanted to what? Make changes. They wouldn't have made an appointment with me unless what? They didn't like their guy. They wouldn't have made an appointment with me unless they wanted to move their money. They wouldn't have made an appointment with me unless they wanted to make changes. Guys, do you really think they make appointments with you because they don't like their guy and they want to make changes? Do you really think that's the reason they're making appointments with you? No, exactly, Pam. That's not the reason they're making appointments with you. They're making appointments with you because they think, oh, maybe I can get some questions answered. Maybe I can make my situation just a little bit better. It's not that bad right now, but maybe I can make it a little bit better. That's why they make appointments with you. Not to move all their money, not to move their guy, not because they're dissatisfied. So what we're doing here with the Yale Close was used by, again, Yale, and that's the reason we call it Yale Close, is because it was used by Yale, a very good study. What they found is that, well, this is actually just a description of motivational interviewing in general, which is the number, when they looked at the number of times a counselor tells an addict to change, it has no effect whatsoever on their behavior. But the more times an addict tells themselves they need to change, the greater the odds they would change. So why do you think I highlighted the more times? The more times an addict tells something they need to change, the greater their odds will change. Why did I highlight the red there? Why do you think I highlighted the red? Jeff Freeberg, why did I highlight the red?
Well, because you have to get them to tell you more than once.
So how many times do we do it?
Oh, dozens and dozens.
Because, and people will say, well, how do you know when, how many, because most advisors, when we listen to tapes, Jeff, most advisors are comfortable with getting the client to say it how many times?
Oh, once or twice.
Once or twice. So what's the difference between a client doing it once or twice and a client doing it, like you said, dozens of times?
Well, dozens of times they can't change their mind.
Yes.
They're locked into that answer.
Yep. So there's lots of reasons why they become locked into their answer, but the fact is they do get locked into their answer and they cannot change it. That's why you hear me have people say things over and over and over again, because the more they say it, the more an addict or somebody who does not want to change says they need to change, the more likely they will be to change. Okay? So again, the reason we called this the Yale Close is Yale actually did this experiment. Is that inner city patients, they found, do not keep their appointments, and this costs hospitals millions of dollars costs them millions of dollars because they hold the slot for the patient doesn't show up, so they have a doctor twiddling their thumbs. They have a nurse twiddling their thumbs. It costs them millions of dollars, so they're trying to figure out how can we possibly get these inner city patients to come, to come to their appointments. And they first analyze, well, why don't they come? Well, they don't come because they don't have transportation. And it's difficult for them to come, especially getting on a city bus or the subway or paying for a cab. That's difficult for somebody who has no money. A lot of them don't have child care. They don't have anybody to take care of the kids, so they can't leave their kids, so they skip the appointment for that, or they have no money to pay for a cab, or no motivation to come, or they'll lose their job if they take more time off to go to the appointment. And so they do, even if they don't feel well enough to go, and they don't have anybody to drive them there, and they don't feel well enough to walk to the bus stop and wait in the cold weather or the rainy weather. So there's tons of reasons why they wouldn't show up for their appointments. But this costs the medical facilities millions and millions of dollars when they don't show up for their appointments. So they went to motivational interviewing, and they said, what can we do to create basically a close for these clients that will have them make their appointments. And they actually asked them 6 questions, which we modeled our Yale Close after. And what they found is after they asked these inner city patients these 6 questions, and the patients answered them, they had a 250% increase in kept appointments. We're not talking 25%, 250% increase. That's huge. And think about that, guys. How many of our people that we see at our events have no transportation? Is that a problem that most of the people who come to the events have? Or do they have to worry about child care? Or they have no money? Now, they don't have any motivation. I will agree with that. But hopefully the event was designed to get them motivated. They don't feel well enough they don't have anybody to help them get to the appointment. They can't take time off for the job. They don't have jobs, most of them. So our patients or our clients don't have any of these problems. So if it works this well for the people with these huge problems, will it work well for our clients? Yes, it does. So what's the first step? What's the first step? The first step is to get them to agree that, hey, nobody can make them do anything. So how do we do that with the Yale Close? We say, listen, folks, can anybody make you sit down and plan so you get more from Social Security? Can anybody make you run your investments through the sales software? No, I mean, you're what? You're in charge of what? Yourself. Can anybody make you do anything? No. So should you be answering these questions, or should they be answering these questions? Who has to answer these questions? They have to answer these questions. So to get the first thing which we're going to acknowledge is what? I can't make them do anything. It's they're in total control of their life. So why do you think, guys, that we have to first acknowledge that out loud? Why do you think we have to acknowledge that out loud? Because I tell you what, when I listen to most other seminars, financial seminars out there, is that how they approach the close? How do all other financial seminars approach the close? What do they spend 5 minutes doing? Guys, here's the huge difference between the Yale Close and the way I used to close and the way every other financial seminar out there closes. What do financial advisors do the last 5 minutes for the close? Yes, Dale, that's right. They tell them, this is what you have to do. They tell, Jeff, you're right. They tell people what to do. And Al, you're right. Pressure tactics. They tell, sell, preach, and teach. Can we tell somebody that doesn't want to make changes, that's happy with where they're at, what they should do? The more we tell them what they should do, the more they what? Resist. Dig in their heels. Make excuses. So our first step is to say, listen, I'm not going to tell you what to do, folks. I totally acknowledge that you are in control of your life and nobody can make you do anything. I acknowledge it right out loud. And then I have them tell me back that, yes, we are in control of our lives and you can't tell us what to do. That's perfect. That's what we want to happen. The next step then, we just say, well, so we know that nobody can make you do anything, so then why might you want to increase your Social Security by 62% above your normal retirement? Why might you want to move your 401k to get a 6% guarantee before they lower that guarantee? Why might you want to run your assets through your current assets through the sales software to get to increase your income by 25% and reduce the chance of running out of money? Why might you want to do these things? Can you tell them why they might want to do these things, guys? No, you cannot. You have to walk around and say, Mary, why might you want to do this? Bob, why might you want to do this? Jim, why might you want to do this? Margaret, why might you want to do this? Make them tell you why it would make sense to do those things. You have to, and we have the camera there, and we write their answers down. Why do we write their answers down? So it doesn't matter whether you write it down under the camera or whether you write it down on a whiteboard or on a flip chart. Why do you write their answers down? Why do we write their answers down, guys? Show importance? Yep. It's their answer? Absolutely. And guys, do people forget what they said 30 seconds ago? Yes, they do. So we write it up there as proof that they said it. We make the intangible tangible. Because if it's just words floating around out there, exactly, Dale, they need to visualize it. So we write it up there, all their different answers up there. And then what do? We say, now on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being it'd be completely idiotic, and 10 being, yeah, it'd be really smart. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being idiotic, 10 being really smart, where would you be? Where would you think it would be? Not necessarily to do these things, but to at least check these things out. Where would it be on a scale of 1 to 10 to at least see how you can qualify for all of the benefits that, again, nobody knows about with Social Security unless they sit down with a Social Security expert? I mean, they've proven this over and over and over. When people go to the Social Security Administration Department, they haven't sat down with an expert, it's guaranteed they will not get all the money guaranteed or money that's owed to them. They're going to get somewhat less than that, sometimes a lot less than what's owed to them. So why, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being idiotic, 10 being, you absolutely should do it. Again, not necessarily doing it, but looking at it, where would it be to check out Social Security? So I've talked to advisors, and most times you're going to get what kind of answers, guys? Most times, what's everybody in the audience saying when you do that? What are most people saying when you do that? They should be saying 9s and 10s, right? Now, I've had some guys say, yeah, well, somebody will give me a 4 or a 5. If somebody gives you a 4 or a 5, do you ignore that, guys? Do you ignore it like you didn't hear it and just move on? What if everybody in the audience is saying 9s and 10s, but somebody blurts out 4 or 5? Do you ignore that? No, Pam, you're right. Why? No, everybody's saying no. Why? Why do you not ignore that? I'll give you an example of that. Have any of you, think about this. If you've ever been to a comedy show, and there's a heckler there. So you go to a comedy show, there's a heckler there, and the comedian dresses that person down, just handles that person unbelievably well. Whose side does the crowd get on? If you're at a comedy show and there's a heckler there and the comedian dresses that heckler down just superbly, whose side? Yes, Jeff, you're right. They get on the comic side. So it's human nature, unfortunately, that what? Do we want to get on the winner's side or we want to get on the loser's side? We get on the winner's side. That's why bullies on a playground, guess what? One person starts bullying, and if that bully is successful, oftentimes this isn't a nice thing about human nature, but it is human nature. Oftentimes, if one person starts bullying, and the person is successful at bullying, what will everybody else in the crowd start to do? It's not nice about human nature, but it's human nature. They join in. Exactly, Jeff. They join in. So now, I've seen this happen too. I've been to a comedy show where there's a heckler there, and the comedian just loses it or is not able to handle that heckler at all. Now what happens? Whose side does the crowd get on? That's right. They get on the heckler side. So when you're at an event and somebody says, everybody's saying 9s, 10s, 9, 9, 10, and somebody shouts out 4, you need to address that right then and there. Why? Because if you let it lay out there, it looks like what? You're a weenie. So you can handle that in one of two ways. But you find out who said 4 or 5. You call them out. If you want to say 4 or 5, be proud of it. You call them out. Who said 4? I heard somebody say 4. And then you walk up to him and say, you know what, Bob? I have to apologize. I am so sorry, Bob. I am so sorry because I've been doing this presentation for a year now to hundreds of people. And it's, I mean, who in their right mind wouldn't want an extra $600 a month from Social Security above and beyond their normal retirement? Everybody would. Who wouldn't want 25% more from their investments with less chance of running out of money? The only people who don't want that are people that want to, you know, that write an extra $500 check on their taxes every year just as a tip to the IRS, or, you know, write an extra $500 check to their brokers because, you know, they think they're doing a good job too. And I haven't found anybody to do that. So I have to apologize, Bob, because apparently I didn't explain what we're talking about here very well to you. I apologize for that because nobody in their right mind, folks, would anybody in their right mind want to walk away from free money from Social Security Department that's owed to them above and beyond the normal retirement? And what's everybody going to shout? Because everybody else is shouting 9s and 10s, so what's everybody going to say at that point? No, you'd be an idiot for the. So all you do is make sure that person feels like what? How much more is he going to heckle you at that point? But more importantly, what is it said to everybody in the crowd? Are you going to put up with any heckling when you go around to make appointments? Now, did I yell at that guy? Did I yell at that guy? Now, I'm certainly probably not going to make him want to have an appointment, but was that guy going to want an appointment anyways? So was my calling him out there about that guy at all? No, you're exactly right, Jeff. Who was it? Who was I actually talking to, Jeff, when I was talking to that guy? Guy, everybody else, guys, the audience. I was talking to the audience. And the audience says, wow, this guy is confident. And guess what people buy? What do people buy? Why do people get bilked out of millions of dollars, trillions of dollars every single year, guys? From con men. Because con men come across what? Confident. So I'm not telling you to be a con man, because we're not being a con man at the event. But it's a proof that even when people are offering people unbelievably stupid things, people will still buy them because the guy who's selling them is confident. Now, are we offering unbelievably stupid things when we're offering to get them an extra $600 or more per month from Social Security? No, we're offering good things, but you still have to be confident. And so when you address that person at a 4 or 5, that states that you are extremely confident and you're not going to put up with any BS. So that translates to when you go around making appointments, people aren't going to be yanking your chain. They're buying into your confidence. So any questions on the scale of 1 to 10? Do you put up with anything except 9s or 10s when you get into this part? And do you have to yell at the person, or do you just go up and apologize to them because it was your fault that you didn't present the information well enough that they got that? Because not any fool would want these things that you're showing them. So obviously they're not a fool. It was your mistake not communicating it. But how does everybody else in the audience realize you communicated it well? So even when you're apologizing, what's everybody else in the audience thinking? When you're apologizing to this guy because you didn't present it very well, everybody else got it. So what are they thinking when you're apologizing? What are they thinking when you're apologizing to this guy? Whose fault is it really? Yeah, he's the crazy one. I didn't need to. That's right. They're thinking, well, you don't need to apologize. He's the doughhead that didn't either hear it or is an idiot. So that's what. So you have to stop. Does any questions on that? You can't move by it, because a lot of times people think, oh, this is getting uncomfortable. They're not giving me the answer they want. Anytime I hear an answer I don't want, do I move away from that point? Not at the event, at a one-to-one meeting, anytime. If I hear an answer I don't like, do I stop the meeting right there, or do I try to run away from that point as quickly as possible? And Jeff, when we've listened to tapes over the last 10 years, when guys get to uncomfortable points, Jeff Freeberg, when guys get to uncomfortable points, what do they tend to want to do, just by human nature?
Just ignore it. Just move on.
And what's the problem with that?
Well, then that doesn't go away. It only gets worse. Whatever the uncomfortable point was becomes an issue. It becomes a stumbling block or an obstacle that you're not going to be able to get over in order to get a sale.
Yeah, and Rick said it validates it. You're exactly right, Rick. Yep, and Jeff, you're right. You won't get the sale. It all builds upon that point. So you don't. And again, did I yell at the guy? No, I said it was my fault. Now everybody in the audience knew it wasn't my fault. But did that guy get the point that he should shut up? And did everybody else get the point that I'm very confident in what I'm doing? So that's what you want to do. The next step then is what? You'd say, now, what would you say to someone that said a 1? Or it'd be a waste of time. Now, if I have a guy that says a 4 or a 3 or 4 or whatever, I've kind of already covered this step, didn't I? But most times that doesn't happen. Most times everybody says 9 or 10. But I say, so what would you say to someone who said it was a 1, it would be a waste of time? And they have to tell you why. Again, if they say it, it's true. If you say it, you always have an agenda, which is, again, an appointment. So you cannot say it. They have to say it. And when they say it, what do we do when they say it, guys? What do we do with what they say? Everything they're saying, what are we constantly doing? Writing it down. Right, Pam. Writing it down because it validates it. Then the next step, 4. So you say, now imagine a year from now that you've increased your Social Security by $600 a month. Think about that. How would that affect your life? What would you do with that extra $600 a month? Imagine a year from now if your income had gone up by 25%. How would your life be different? And make them visualize it. Make them say it out loud. What would they do differently? What would you do with an extra $600 a month, Mary? What would you do if your income went up by 25%? How would it make you feel? Would you sleep better at night? Would it give you more peace of mind? Would you be able to buy better vacations? Make them visualize it. And say, now, why are those things important to you? Because if they say you'd be making more money, can we live with them saying you'd be making more money? If they say we'd be making more money or we'd be missing out on money, if they talk about money, 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 what do we do with that? Do we let that stand? Because money doesn't give us, yes, that's right, Pam, how it applies to their life. Because money means nothing. Money is not emotional. Seeing grandchildren, that's emotional. Not flipping and turning and tossing at night because you're afraid you're going to run out of money, that's emotional. You have to say, people, we're not talking about money here. Because if all you're doing is trying to get more and more and more and more money, does that kind of attitude make you any happier? If you're just constantly, your whole life revolves around getting more and more and more and more money, does that make you any happier? So we're not talking about getting more and more and more money. I'm asking you, how would it change your life lifestyle-wise? Would it make you calmer? Would it make you more relaxed? Would it allow you to drive a little bit better car? Would it allow you to go out to eat more often? Would it allow you to visit your grandchildren more? But of course, I'm saying these things. Make them say these things. And then you do what? You make them write it down. Okay? You have to write it down. So don't be satisfied with just money. They have to tell you what that money gives them. And the more emotional it is, the better. So you're exactly right, Pam, how it applies to their life. And then the 6th question is, what do you think your next step should be? So if that's the thing, I mean, if we're all saying 9s and 10s, that we should be at least checking these things out. If we know that a year from now it's going to make our life a whole lot better, what do you think your next step should be? And guys, do you move on until they tell you what the next step should be? What if they don't tell you what the next step should be? What should you do? What do you think I would do? If they don't tell me what the next step would be, guess what I'm going to do? What do you think I'd do? I'd look at one and ask maybe, circle back, Dale. Right, I'd circle back. I'd just do the whole thing all over again. I'd just circle back and do the whole thing over again. When somebody does give me the answer that I want, it tells me that I apparently didn't have them explain it to me well enough, so I have to go back and have them explain it to me all over again. Very good, Dale, exactly. So we have to have them tell us their next step should be what? To check it out. And then you're going to say, what? I make it easy for you. I've already paid for this stuff. So that's why. You have to tell them why you're doing it for free. You can't just say, hey, I'm going to do this for free. Tell them why you're doing it for free. And the reason we tell them that we're doing it for free is say, listen, I already own this software. So I can use it as many times as I want without any additional cost. So I can do this for you for free. That's why I can do it for free, because it doesn't cost me any more to do it. Okay? So I already have this stuff. So there's no cost to you. Then you have to tell them why they need to make an appointment today. Why do they need to make an appointment today? We tell them, well, because, here's the thing. I am doing this for free for you. I am, because you came to the event, I am offering to do this for free for you. But my time is valuable, so it really throws my practice into chaos when I've got people calling me over the next 2 weeks scheduling things and whatever else. So I ask out of courtesy. I feel that I'm giving you a good value here. I'm offering to you for free. I'm not charging you a fee. All I ask that you do is have the courtesy to make your appointment today, because it makes it easier for me and my office to schedule things. So what am I saying, guys? It's a quid pro quo. Show that you have value, that you're offering something of value, but doggone it, because you're offering something of value for free, that they need to do at least what? Meet you where? Where do they need to meet you? Halfway, Pam. Exactly, halfway. Because if I just say it's free, it's free, it's free, it's free, it's free, does it sound very valuable? No. But I would say it's free, but here's my conditions. Because, it's really not free. It really throws my business into chaos, because I'm doing all these free meetings when I've got clients. I've got other people who need to see me. I'm working with accountants. I'm working with attorneys. They need to see me. So my time's valuable. But because you came today, I will give you this meeting for free, but please do the courtesy to me to schedule your appointments today so that my office isn't thrown into chaos. Tell them why they need to make their appointments today. Any questions on that? Okay. The next thing is, hey, if you're married, you got to come together. Why? Why do they have to come? Why do we tell them and again, anytime you ask them to do something, you need to tell them why. Or more importantly, ask them why. So why do you think if you're married, I needed both people to be there, folks? So why is it? Why do you think, guys? Why do we tell them? Or what do we want them to tell us, more importantly? If both people are not there, what are you going to end up having to do? Go through it again, Pam. Exactly. You're going to have to go through it again. And again, my time's valuable. I don't mind going through this for you. Again, you were nice enough to come today. I will do this for free for you, but what I ask is that, please, like I said, have the courtesy to make your appointment today so it doesn't get into chaos. And more importantly, when you come to see me, let's do this so I don't have to do it twice for people. And this is important stuff. So you should have both people there. So tell them why they need to bring both people. Then I talk about unrealistic expectations. So let's see what we have here. Steve says, on the back of my evaluation, I put my calendar with appointment times. Excellent. Some marked out. So Steve Zumas, this is excellent. So he says, on the back of my evaluation, I put my calendar with appointment times. Some of them are marked out. I ask them to pick out a time which streamlines the appointment capture, and I validate the time on my master and give them an appointment time. That's awesome. I like it. So everybody hear what we did there? I'll read it one more. Missy, why don't you read it one more time because I go too fast.
Yep. It says, on the back of my evaluation, I put my calendar with appointment times, which are some are already marked out. I ask them to pick out a time which streamlines the appointment capture. I validate the time on my master and then give them their appointment time, an appointment card.
And this is really important for Steve because he's been doing, and we've had some wonderful success with the Social Security events, and he has had great attendance and been having a lot of success with the Social Security without feeding. So when you're not feeding, these people you're not able to work the room as quickly as possible, or you have to work the room twice as fast because they're not sitting there eating, which gives you time to work the room. When they're not feeding them, they're more likely to take a beeline for the door. So this is very ingenious what Steve has come up with to streamline the process because he doesn't have the advantage and the disadvantage of feeding them when he's doing the Social Security event. So thanks, Steve, for sharing that. That's fantastic. So now, when we go back to the unrealistic expectations, why am I talking about unrealistic expectations? What's the whole purpose that I bring that up? And this is very important, guys, because the client, it's a sneaky way of making sure that the crowd understands one thing and one thing only. What am I making sure the crowd understands when I talk about the unrealistic expectation? When I say, hey, I just want to make sure nobody comes to my office with unrealistic expectations. What is this part of the close about? What's this part of the close about, guys? It's about making sure, taking the pressure off from Pam. Good job, Pam. So it's about taking the pressure off of them. It's saying, hey, listen, just so you don't come in with unrealistic expectations, we're not going to make any changes when you come in. Again, we're not talking about doing these things. We're talking about how smart it is to understand how these things work, to find out more information about these things, not to do these things. So when you come in, we're not going to be doing anything. We're not signing paperwork. We're not moving any investments. We're not going to go down to the Social Security Department. It's about finding out how these things work. Then you can go home and do what, folks? Think about it. That's what we're talking about. So I don't want you to have unrealistic expectations when you come in. We're going to be making all sorts of changes and doing this, that, and the other thing. We're not. I'm going to give you information for you to go home and think about and how it affects you and your family. So the reason we do that is because guess why? There's 3 reasons people will not make appointments with you. Well, let me ask you a question first of all. How many people, if I lined up 100 people out there and said, would you like Social Security to send you an additional 62% a year? What percentage of people would say yes to that? All of them, 100%. So that's what we're offering them at the events, right? Among other things. So if they don't make appointments, there's one of 3 reasons that they didn't make an appointment. Number 1 is they don't like us. But I think most of you kind of get the feeling that by the events that we're doing, do people like you? Jeff Freeberg, have you seen any tape of any advisor doing the events? And we've seen some guys that have done really good jobs and some guys that have done some pretty shaky jobs. But even the shaky jobs, did the people still like the advisor?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Yeah,
they
so
like you.
Yeah, they like you. So the 3 reasons they won't make an appointment is, number 1, they don't like you. That's not a problem. Number 2 is they don't trust you, and we're going to talk about that here in a second. And number 3, they didn't understand what they would get if they made an appointment. So it's not because they don't like you, because they like everybody. So it either becomes because they don't trust you, or they don't understand the benefit of the appointment. It could be either one of those. But let's talk about they don't trust you. They don't trust you because anytime you say, I'm here to help you, they think what? When you say, I'm here to help you, they think what? Are you really there to help them? Yeah, nothing is free. You really want to do what? Sell them. That's why you want them to come to see you. So what you're going to make sure they understand beyond a shadow of a doubt is this first appointment is not about what? Selling. This first appointment is not about doing anything. This first appointment is just about getting more information. They have to know beyond a shadow of a doubt that this first appointment is just about getting more information. It's not about you selling them anything. That's what the unrealistic expectations part of the script is, okay? So any questions about what we're doing there? Okay? So then the one-on-one script, yeah, leave your wallet at home, exactly. Now, never say that because you're right, Dale. Leave your wallet at home. That's what we want them to believe. We'll never say that because anytime somebody says I should leave my wallet at home, guess where my hand goes? So you're exactly right, Dale. That's what you want them to feel. We just never want to use those words. Now, we've got in the audience, and what do we use for the one-on-one script? I want you to understand this. This is in your, and Miss Missy, where do they find this exact script? Because I've talked to a lot of guys that just don't even know this script exists. Where do they find this script?
Sure, it's actually in a couple of places. The first place is actually posted in the presentation section, and it's called Appointment Setting Script. So just click on Presentation and then go to Appointment Setting Script. And then it's also part of the manual as well, and also in the Yale Close. But probably the easiest place, just click on Presentation in the green navigation on the left side, and just look for Appointment Setting Script.
Thank you. So this is when you walk on the audience, and the person you're going to walk to first is the person who you think, through the interaction of the event, was the one most likely to make an appointment. So you're going to go up to that person and say, so, did you enjoy the presentation as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you? And what are they going to say to that? Yeah, I did. It was great. Super. Well, I had fun as well. So what do you think? I mean, were you closer to a 9 or 10 when it comes to, at least checking these things out, like checking out how you get 62% more on average. I mean, some people are more than that, some people a little bit less than that, but a lot more money from Social Security above and beyond your normal retirement. Make sure they understand it's above and beyond the normal retirement. At least checking these things out. I mean, to get that above and beyond your normal retirement just for applying for a couple of benefits that most people don't know about. And then also, increasing your current investments by 25% and lower the chance of running out of your money just by putting it through the sale. I mean, again, not necessarily doing these things, but at least checking these out. Were you closer to a 9 or 10 to check out how to get more from Social Security, to file for benefits you didn't know were available to you, or closer to a 9 or 10 to at least check out if your investments or how much more your investments could generate just by running through the sale? Were you closer to a 9 or 10 to check those things out, or were you closer to a 1 thinking it would be idiotic to check those things out? Well, what are they going to say when you do that? No. That's closer to 9 or 10. As soon as they say that, you can say, exactly. I mean, at least checking this thing out is the only sensible thing to do, isn't it? I mean, not checking those things out would be foolish, wouldn't it? Now I've just locked them in. Because if they say they don't want to check it out, they have to admit that they're a what? A fool. So now look at how I did this. Let's go up to this paragraph up here again. Do you notice that, do I end with a 9 or 10, or do I end with the 1? That's very important. Because if I say, so were you closer to a 1 thinking it'd be idiotic, or were you closer to a 9 or 10? They say, well, closer to a 9 or 10, but I don't have my calendar with me. But I can't do it now. But my relatives are coming to visit. But. If you end with the 9 or 10, they end up saying, yes, but. But if you end up with the 1, they have to address the 1. So you say, so you're closer to 9 or 10? At least checking these things out, or were you closer to 1? That you thought it would be even idiotic to check these things out. When you end up with the 1, they'll always say, no, I don't think it's idiotic. And then you immediately jump in, because they've just validated that they're a 9 or 10 when they say, no, they weren't a 1, that they didn't think it was idiotic. You say, exactly. I mean, at least checking these things out would be the only sensible thing to do, isn't it? I mean, not checking it out would be foolish, wouldn't it? And now they're locked in. So, based on that, when would be the best time for us to work together, get together for an hour or so, just to review these things, get you the information, see what may or may not work for you. Are mornings or afternoons better for you? So you get the power of this script, guys. And again, what if you get the wiseacre who in here says 4 or 5? What are you going to do with them, guys? What are you going to do if somebody says 4 or 5 when you do this script? Address it. Address it, exactly. Because the whole room, are you only talking to that person? No. The whole room is listening to you, and people buy your what? What are people buying? Confidence, Al. You're exactly right. Confidence. Exactly. So, that's the Yale close. Any questions on the Yale close? Any problems you've run into? Any things you want to talk about? That's all I have to cover today. So now would be a great time if you've got questions, comments, concerns to bring them up. But do you see the power of the Yale close when it's done appropriately? They're telling you 6 different ways, 6 different times why they should make an appointment with you. All you're doing at the end is having them recall, pointing to the screen, all the things that they said, why they need to make an appointment with you. So how far do we circle back if there's a question at number 6? We have a question. How far do we circle back if there's a question at number 6? So if we say, what should we do now, how far would I circle back? Oh, I'm going to basically say, so it's going to depend, that's kind of hard to say. That's a good question, but it's really hard to say how far I'd circle back if I don't get that what I'm looking for. I'm going to have to decide in my own head, first of all, is this guy an outlier, or is it the crowd as a whole? If this guy's an outlier, then what I'm going to do is probably circle back maybe just 1 step back, or to a main point on why it would make sense, and let the crowd tell this guy what the correct answer is. If I think I've lost the whole crowd, I've got to go all the way back to the beginning. And I might not spend as much time at each question or at each point, but I'll hit each point to make sure that they all get the answer to all those points. So if the guy's an outlier, I'm only going to go back 1 step, let the crowd tell this guy why he's an outlier. If I think I've lost the whole crowd, I've got to go back to the very beginning and get them to answer. I just won't spend as much time at each one of those questions. Does that make sense? Which Social Security mailer are most guys using, Missy? The fun one or the more to the point one?
Most of the people are using the more to the point one, I believe. I don't have a lot of feedback of it, but I think it's more the postcard type size.
What are the ages of their mailing? Well, if they're doing the Social Security, they're mailing 59 to 63. So we got a question. What age is the guy's mailing? If they're doing the Social Security event, they're mailing 59 to 63. If they're doing the Take Your Brain for a Jog, they're mailing 60 to, some people are mailing the 60 to 70, some people are mailing 60 to 75. Are they self-mailing or using All-Pro? People doing Take Your Brain for a Jog are all using All-Pro for them, and well, not all. We've got some people also using another provider we have, which they've had good luck with as well. So if you want to try somebody other than All-Pro, let us know, and we can let you try them with the Take Your Brain for a Jog. As far as the Social Security, we've got guys just putting ads in the paper. We get guys using their own mailing house. We got guys mailing from their own office, and we've got guys using all pros. So with the Social Security, it's all over the board. People are just using what they're most comfortable using. We have another question. Do you always ask one person for an appointment in front of the entire group at the end of the Yale close, or can we just have them make appointments as they leave? Well, I think you could do it either way, but if you ask them for appointments as they leave, you could get a bottleneck. So if I'm trying to leave and there's a guy in front of me making an appointment, I might wait for that guy. But if I'm behind a guy waiting for a guy making an appointment who's trying to make, you can see how if there's a bottleneck, I don't want an appointment that bad. I'll walk around it. So if you're feeding, you're going to want to work the room right then and there. And again, you're not necessarily, maybe I wasn't clear, you're not necessarily asking for that appointment in front of everybody because you're just going and talking to that one person. But when you're just talking to that one person, there's going to be a lot of people watching you. Right? There's going to be a lot of people watching you. So I'm not doing it in a public format. I'm doing it in a one-on-one format, but I'm not putting them into a little cubicle to ask them. So everybody is watching me, so I have to be aware that I'm on stage with even when I'm talking to people one-on-one for those appointments. So how do you make appointments? If you're feeding them, you need to work that room immediately. We've had good luck with people with the Social Security, since they're not feeding, actually making appointments at the door as well, because they're not going to wait around to eat, so you need to get to that door to thank everybody and make those appointments right then. So it's a yes or no to that, Don, either one-on-one or as they leave. Good questions, guys. Anything else or any other questions, concerns? Or did I answer those questions okay? Super. Well, if we have no questions or comments, then we'll finish a little early today. Again, I appreciate all you. Oh, here we go. Oh, everybody's saying thank you. Good. So I appreciate all you guys, and hope you have a good rest of the week, and we'll talk to you next Monday. Thanks, everybody.